I'm sorry to say this, but Starfield may very well be dead.
Do not toy with me. Not about this.
Things haven't really panned out the way that Bethesda and Xbox have hoped, which begs the question, why hasn't Starfield lived up to what Skyrim and Fallout have been able to pull off before? We're going to dive into this and more. Welcome to my notebook.
Let me know if you need anything else.
Skyrim and Fallout are just huge. I mean, these games are still played today. Skyrim came out in 2011 and it's still being played all the time now. Fallout 4 had a bit of a rocky start, but it's gotten to a really good place now, especially with mods and all of that, so people are playing that a lot, even now. And with Starfield, this is a game that was years in development. It was an Xbox exclusive on console. It was expected to be the next Skyrim. That's what they were aiming for.
Are you sure about that?
So a massive budget, huge expectations, but something went wrong. The thing is that Starfield has done one of the unforgivable sins when it comes to making a video game. And that's for many, they just found the game boring.
You say security. You're under arrest.
And there's just so much to compare it to now as well. I mean, on top of comparing it to Skyrim and the Fallout games, Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, and 4, which have enjoyed long-lasting popularity, we also have direct comparisons that can be done now with a game like Cyberpunk, which really is something pretty great to compare it to because it also had a terrible launch. I mean, it had a launch that was way worse than Starfield, but the way it's come back has been pretty amazing. But on top of that is the fact that it gives us this near one-to-one sort of comparison on a first-person role-playing action shooter and what that can be. The problem with Starfield is that when we compare it to these other games, Fallout, Skyrim, and even now games like No Man's Sky and Star Wars Outlaws, Starfield is being beaten in almost every single different area. Cyberpunk has better shooting and better feel on the gameplay. It's got really good atmosphere in the world. Fallout has better open world exploration and the feeling that what you're doing is worth something. No Man's Sky has seen like a bajillion updates since it came out, but I mean, it's really doing space travel in a way that Starfield couldn't even dream of. And then Star Wars Outlaws, which just came out recently and I reviewed and liked, just shows you how so many things in Starfield could have been better, even when it comes down to doing similar types of space travel and quick travel, except hiding the travel seamlessly to make it feel like it's one whole journey rather than what happens in Starfield where you're just stuck with loading screen after loading screen. It just pulls you out of the experience so badly. And as much as Star Wars Outlaws is faking it and they're doing these fake transitions between areas, it still made me feel like I was actually traveling and going from the planet up into the sky and so on. The Shattered Space expansion has come out now and it was hoped and expected that this would redeem the game, but you've seen the reviews by now and they're not looking great and players aren't really that happy with it. Unlike something like Phantom Liberty, for example, some people are even saying it's just a glorified set of side missions. Now, I have been playing it and checking it out, but I'm not that far in it quite yet, but it seems like it's got some cool stuff that you would want out of Starfield, but this is far from what's needed to really redeem the game. On top of that, there's been all the performance improvements and updates over time. There's been the vehicle, which is the rover. There's been updates to the Xbox Series X and S's performance, the introduction of 60 FPS mode on the Series S, even a whole bunch of other fixes, and of course the big updates to things like the maps with 3D maps, which really are a lot nicer now. But again, these are things that are just sort of fixing where it should have been, not necessarily adding to what it could be. And I mean, the performance modes, as much as I love them, like I really like the 40 FPS mode that I'm able to play with on my screen because it can handle 4K at 120 Hz, but not everyone has that luxury, and the other modes can be a little bit iffy. I mean, the performance modes for 60 FPS, it can get really janky and really up and down, and I mean, it's far from perfect. With the vehicle that they've added, there's times when I've been ramping around and going quite fast on a planet where everything just completely starts staggering and choking because it can't. I don't think it was ever really designed to have something moving around at that speed all the time. On top of that, we have this expansion which is paid for, but also it's for people who bought the deluxe versions of the original game and things like that, or upgraded from Game Pass. But this is also a problem because I think that at this point, maybe the best thing they could have done was to actually give it away for free along with updates to get people to be interested enough to come out and try it. But I appreciate that they're in a bit of a pickle there because they can't exactly do that because they're going to upset all the people who bought the deluxe versions for things like this. So how would they handle that? I'm not entirely sure. The thing is, I think that Microsoft have to really be looking at releasing this game on PS5 right now because this was a big investment for them and for Bethesda that they were really hoping and, banking on, and it's just not panning out, I think, the way that they had hoped, and the only way to try and recoup those costs is to release it on PS5.
Thanks.
The problem is, does anyone on the PS5 actually want the game right now?
Oh, that. Yeah, I mean, it's been a mess lately.
I'm going to give a few of my thoughts on what I think they can do to try and turn it around, or what options they have if they really want to try and make this thing a success, but also what they maybe will need to do if they even want to release it on PS5 and have it be a success. I believe that these are some of the things that they could actually update the game with just to make it feel a bit better.
I'll get the coffee brewing.
I'm not saying it's going to be easy or simple, but I think that's actually doable. I must point out that quite a few of the people close to me that I've spoken to, some haven't finished the game because they just sort of lost interest or got into something else. When I speak to them, they've got no interest in trying to go back to this game and pick it all up again and remember what they were doing, and they definitely wouldn't start it over. It's just not interesting enough, and it's just complex enough that they'd rather not. At the same time, I also have quite a few people around me who have finished the game, but as a result of, and I won't go into any spoilers, but as a result of how the game ends, or how the game experience was as a whole, they're also telling me they're just not that interested in jumping back in. They feel like they're sort of done with it. So what can they do to actually try and bring things back around now? I think it goes without saying that they would have to look at doing like a full-blown overhaul, something along the lines of what CD Projekt Red did with Cyberpunk. That involves some hectic work in reworking the skill systems, the world building. What can they do to make this game feel better? Also, underwhelming planets and exploration, and it just feels empty. It just feels like, I miss that handcrafted, discovery-focused approach of previous Bethesda games. They've got some of it there, and they try to do some of it in the expansion, but at the same time, it's just not quite there. Maybe they can come right there. Maybe they can come up with something very smart that will allow for more or better random generated events to take place that make these planets a little bit more fascinating. But for now, cookie cutter outposts and things like that just don't gel. The problem is when you walk into a place that looks like the last place and all the enemies are basically soldiers, what are you really getting out of this experience?
You get nothing!
For the PS5 release strategy, if they were going to go that way, they would want to do that to reach a broader audience. But again, in its current state, it might not attract that many people who just sort of see it as this sort of mediocre game that came out on Xbox. Now, the PS5 does have a big audience, so if they did release it, surely there are enough people interested in something like that they would get some decent sales. But maybe not enough for like a full-blown, real big uptake in the game. The way I see it, they've got three options here.
I have a plan.
You've got a plan.
Yes.
Number one, they can just do nothing, cut their losses, and move on to Fallout as quick as humanly possible so that they can make hay out of all the sun that's shining on the Fallout TV show right now, so that once Season 2 comes, they've got a really, really solid Fallout release. So that would be them basically saying, look, we're going to shelve this for now. We're just going to have to pick this up with a sequel and drum it up from there because this just hasn't really worked, and we don't want to spend more money on it and lose future money in other franchises like Fallout because we don't have anything ready.
Secondly, I don't even believe you have a plan.
Option 2 is that they go for a complete overhaul. They do the whole 2.0 thing. They try and release extra content. They really, really put their heads down, invest in the future of this game. They did an Elder Scrolls Online. They did a Fallout Online. There's a good chance that they were planning on doing a Starfield Online as well, and they would still need to invest in this. Really try and make the best out of this investment, do the 2.0, fix things up, get some free content out, absolutely blast this thing with everything, and then release it on PS5 with complete overhaul packaged content, the whole deal on PS5 and Xbox and PC, and hope that they can CD Projekt Red this thing.
I have part of a plan.
And then there's option 3, which is just, you know what, the way it's sitting right now, just release it on PS5, don't do anything with it, use that to recoup some costs on the bigger audience, and just move the hell on. And before I move on here, let me just note, if you have any thoughts on how this could go or what they could do, drop them in the comments. Okay, so let's answer that big question. Is Starfield dead? Can Starfield recover from this rocky launch, the disappointing reception, or should they cut their losses and move on? And I think the answer is maybe yes. You know, there was a lot riding on this expansion and the updates, that once the expansion came out, the updates really needed to be in a place where people could already see this and say, wow, you know, this is worth jumping into and getting back into. But I don't think they've done it. I think it's almost evident that they haven't done it. Starfield may very well actually be dead in the case that what they were hoping to achieve, I'm not sure if they can ever pull it back. I'm not sure if they can get it out of this. So right now it's just not looking good. And again, I'd like you to jump into the comments and give your opinion on this. Like, what do you think about Starfield? Are you enjoying it still? I'd like to hear what you have to say. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit the like button to let me know. Leave comments below. If you like the videos and you want to see more videos, check out the channel, subscribe to the channel as well. It'll be cool to have you. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.